right? And I was in an area on Mustang Island that didn't have cell service. And I was on the sand dune trying to find some cell service, trying to identify this thing. But anyway, I said it was an American eel, which this would have been a world record. And by the time I figured it out, it was less than 24 hours. It was already on CNN. World record, American eel found, Mustang Island. I was like, oh my God, my career's over. And then it was in like 500 newspapers, you know. It was like every, language you could think about. But, so I went in to the YouTube channel where we put the video, and I put down there, I was like, everything about this video is about an American eel, the life cycle, the amazing things about this eel. But it's actually a king snake eel. I was like, which is cool too. I mean, only found in the Gulf of Mexico in deep water, usually around oil rigs and stuff like that. But, and then, because I got a lot of interviews after that, I said it was a king snake eel, So, but anyway, you always got to, whenever you're doing these videos and stuff like that, and you're making them every week, and you're kind of on your own with it, you're going to make mistakes. So luckily that was kind of the only one that I know of so far, anyway. But I'm at the.
Still a world record, even though it was a king snake?
No. This is actually pretty average size. It's a big king snake eel, but they're known to be really large. Yeah, and actually, Parks and Wildlife couldn't tell me. NOAA Fisheries couldn't tell me what it was, and I had a lot of video, up close. It turned out it was a fisherman. They're like, oh, we catch those offshore when we're fishing around the oil rigs. And then once they told me king snake eel, then I was able to look it up. And if you look at some of that video, you can barely see some of the stripes and stuff that it would have. So, So I'm at the Hart Research Institute for Gulf of Mexico Studies there at Texas A&M Corpus Christi University. I've been there for about 6 months. I was actually working here for about 9 years with the Mission Aransas Research Reserve here at University of Texas Marine Science Institute. And so the thing that I was hired for over there was doing beachcombing and educating folks about what's washing up in the Gulf of Mexico. And so I go out weekly along the beach and take video that comes out on Mondays and then do pictures that come out on Fridays. And then we also have some other research and stuff that I'm involved in with plastic pellets, nurdles. And but what I'm going to talk to you about today is the beachcombing side of things.
It sounds like a pretty spectacular job.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
For that.
No complaints.
Yeah.
No complaints. A quantitative analysis linking sea turtle mortality and plastic debris ingestion. Okay, you're falling asleep already, right? Yeah. Well, and so as scientists, we have to have these publications that come out that are very technical. They have a lot of charts in there, very informative for what the science says. Unfortunately, not a lot of people read that. And so what if I was able to do a video and put some words in there about sea turtles ingesting plastic, beautiful turtles laying eggs on the beach. And then I put something up here, estimates of 52% of sea turtles worldwide are eating plastic. And then we've got a lot of views on the video and stuff like that. So we're able to get the same information, but it's condensed. And it's going out to the masses. And so I'd say actually once I had gotten here in 2014 is when I first started at UTMSI, we started making these videos about research and the data that's in all these publications, trying to put it into a format that was understandable so that we can make decisions about natural resources and things like that. And so starting when COVID hit, y'all remember they were like shutting the beaches down. People didn't want to travel, and so we thought, and Adriana was here, we thought, well, let's bring the beach to the people. And so we started up a series of videos, and beachcombing was one of them. That one came out on Monday. Then we would have Teaching Tuesday, Wacky Wednesday. We'd have a video for everything. But I'd say after about a month or so, really the beachcombing one was the one that was consistent coming out. And we just, after about 30 episodes, we're like, well, there's nothing else to talk about. We talked about ocean currents, we talked about you know, the fish that wash up and stuff. Well, if you look now, we still have these going. There's over 220 videos that have been produced. Some of them haven't come out yet. I'm excited to say there's some really good content coming out on Mondays over the next few months. But that just tells you the Gulf of Mexico has a lot of stuff in it. There's something new always coming up, and it's exciting every time I go out there. That's what gets me excited is I find something new. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe this, even if it's a dome.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about some of that. But here, if y'all are interested, you know, in any of this, seeing the YouTube videos, if you're not following us already, this is a QR code to it, and I have some cards also that have the QR code. You see me afterwards. But why do we get all this stuff washing up on our shorelines? It has to do with what's called the loop current. And so we have this current that comes up around Mexico, goes around Cuba, and then gets in the Gulf Stream up on the east coast of Florida. And when that loop current comes up, it creates these eddies, and anything in that gets pushed up to the Louisiana, Texas coast. And of course, the wind and everything pushes it up on our shorelines. And so we have 10 times the amount of trash washing up on our shoreline than any other state in the Gulf of Mexico. And it has to do with these ocean currents. And that is all research that was done right here at UTMSI. Katie Swanson, I don't know if y'all have heard of her, but she was part of that research that went on right before Hurricane Harvey hit, actually. Okay, so what type of things do we talk about in the videos? Well, it's everything from man-made items to natural items, and we'll go into detail. So if it's a fish we found, we'll talk about what it eats, where it lives, if we eat it, you know, any kind of weird life cycle things about it. If it's not natural, we try to say where it might have come from. We always talk about the loop current. Sometimes it's a message in a bottle, and so we get to describe that. Sometimes it's like a jar of olives. If it's something edible, I usually try to taste it. After this jar, I didn't feel too good for about 24 hours. Like I would look this way and that way, and I got kind of,
Really?
I kind of took it easy that night. But so I would not suggest doing that. You know, that's for professional beachcombers only. Let's see what else. And then we can also, like, if we have a dolphin wash up or we have a sea turtle wash up, we try to put information in there, like what people should do if they find a stranded animal and who to contact. So we're always trying to have some sort of action item in there as well. So those videos come out every Monday. And then on Fridays, we do 20 to 30 photos about what's washing up. And we will put labels on them. So on this example, we have labels of different items that we found. Sometimes we'll go into details, so we'll put like a paragraph of information. And so that's on Fridays. Now, I found, now that y'all know kind of what I do and everything, this is, I'm going to start going through and telling you about some of the odd things that we found. And so I found over 30 messages in a bottle over the last 6 years that we've been doing this. And this particular one right here, and I got an extra story from 3 days ago what happened. Something amazing. It has to do with this message in a bottle. So this message in a bottle was found probably 2 years ago. This 11-year-old girl was going around the world in a catamaran with her family. So it was her mom, dad, and 2 siblings. And when they got at the equator off the coast of Brazil, they threw this message in a bottle in. And then I found it a year and a half later. And I was with Rick Tennant, actually. And so I got the bottle out, the message out of the bottle, and it was all in French. There were 2 pages. There was a drawing of the world of where they threw the message in the bottle in and where they had traveled. And then the message I had to get translated. So I got it translated, and I got the address, and I wrote them a letter, and they wrote me back about a month later. That was pretty cool. So fast forward, a few days ago, I gave this presentation, and there was a lady in the audience that was like, "What?" And so she came up to me afterwards, and she's like, "I grew up with that family in France." And so she we did a selfie or whatever together, and she sent my information to the lady. She said the lady was crying, and that she was going to get a hold of me, so she got my email. So there's going to be more to the story on this one. But we have 2 beachcombing videos on the Mission Aransas YouTube channel. And so there's part 1 where we find the bottle and I read it out and everything, and then I write them a letter. And then part 2 is I receive their letter and read it and everything. And they wrote me back in English and stuff. So there was supposed to be a part 3, so this might be it. We also find some historical things on the beach. These are bales of rubber that are from 1944. They come from a ship that was sunk in World War II. It was sunk by the U.S. It was a German ship off the coast of Brazil. They think that the ship is now falling apart. It's actually 3 miles deep. It's breaking apart and then popping. These things are popping up. Or maybe it's a mile deep. I can't remember. But there was a lady actually this last week at this conference I was at in Tampa. She was talking about these bales of rubber. So there is a group in Florida, the Fish and Wildlife Service out of Florida. They are tracking these things. And so she said, we want to know the latitude, longitude, and if you can cut a chunk off of it, please do and send it to them. And then they can verify that it actually came from that ship. But I've tried to cut into these, and people have tried to cut into these because I will get somebody that says, there's a huge bale of weed over here. We're trying to cut into it, and it's just so hard. I was like, that's rubber. I was like, if you cut into that rubber, there's more rubber because it looks like sheets from your bed. They're put all together, and then there's one big sheet around it, and so that's what forms the whole thing. And so it's natural rubber from a rubber tree. That's how they used to make tires and stuff like that. And so we have some here. Last summer, one washed up on the Mustang Island State Park, and then a couple weeks ago, I was down on the National Seashore, and there's a couple of bales down there. They weigh about 150 pounds. I mean, they're heavy. But I always thought it'd be cool yard art. We find a lot of scientific equipment on the beach. Some of it is from the federal government. Some of it is from state agencies. Some of it is from research institutes, and some of it is private companies. So like this one in the middle right here, that yellow one, that's from a company called SoFar. They're out of California. And I've found several of those. They cost $5,000 each. They can tell you wave height. It's connected to satellite, so it can tell you where it's located, so ocean current, speed. It has a bulb on top, a little bitty bulb, and it can tell you wind speed in there. And so you can actually anchor this down, or you can just let it go adrift and you connect it to your phone. And so when I found this and I looked it up, and I was like, whoa, $5,000, they're gonna send me like some, a check or something. So I told them I found it, and they said, oh, well, we're gonna send you something. It'll be in the box that you can put the device in. And I was like, okay. So I open it up, and there's a keychain that looks exactly like what? There was also a T-shirt in there. But this one right here, they give us $40 each for, and I found about 10 of those, and that's from the Woods Hole Institute here in Texas, in Richmond, Texas. They give you $40 each. Of course, all the money we ever get always goes to the Aimless Rehabilitation Keep for sea turtles and bird rehab. So I don't keep any of it myself. This up here is a can buoy, and this is from DARPA, so the federal agency. I found, within a 2-week period, I found about 5 of those. If there's an oil spill or there's an algal bloom or something and they want to know where it's drifting to, they'll go throw a whole bunch of those out and then watch where it goes. And there's a QR code on there to return it to them, and I did the QR code and never heard anything. So actually this company, the SoFar company, was like, they came down here because we were finding them, and they were like, oh, let's partner together, and we'll go put some more out. But they saw those on the pile of debris that we get when we have an auction every year to sell all the stuff we find and to be able to raise money for the ARC, the Aimless Rehabilitation Keep. And they were like, whose can buoys are those? And I was like, oh, it's DARPA. And they're like, oh, can we have one? And by this point, we had them for months, and I was like, yeah, go for it. I think they're hoping to get like some federal, intelligence out of it or something. I have no idea. I was like, yeah, go for it. Because we ended up just throwing them away. I mean, nobody's gonna buy those things. And then the last one here I'll talk about is the NOAA weather balloon. And so we find a bunch of these. And so it will have a little transmitter device on it connected with rope that is on an orange parachute. And lots of times we'll find turtle bites in the parachute and stuff. But NOAA puts these out, and they send 92 of these up every single day around the country. And it's a big white latex balloon, and then it's got a parachute attached to it, so it goes way up, pops, and then slowly comes down and sends out all this data. And so we find a lot of those. And if you look them up online, like sea turtle entanglement with NOAA weather balloon, you will see that type of thing, and birds and stuff. So it seems, you know, there's the question of like, well, we have satellites and we have all this other kind of ways of getting data. Why do we need that? But apparently that's still one of the best ways to be able to get the type of information that they need. So I don't know. It seems like there could be a better
Too bad,
material. Yeah, too bad. Yeah. We find a lot of different kind of interesting looking fish. This is the cowfish. There's the king snake eel. So about once every other year we'll find one of those king snake eels, now that I know what they are. Tarpon. Port A used to be called tarpon. They used to catch a bunch of tarpon around here, and you just don't see them that often anymore. But this one washed up. It was a 7-footer. And this is Sarah. She was working for the reserve at the time. She laid down next to it, and she was like 6 foot tall or something like that. So you see how big that is. But the scales on that thing were like that big, huge. And so the next week after this, I actually was like, whoa, you know, maybe we could keep these scales, and so we can get a whole bunch of them after it dries out. So I dug up the tail, we pulled it up with a UTV up to the dunes, and the next week it was totally gone. You could not find it. And I was like, what happened? I guess coyotes or whatever. But
no scales, huh?
yeah. Oh, and one time, a similar type thing, I found the hugest lightning whelk. And the muscle, or the snail of it was actually barely hanging out. I mean, it stunk real bad. I was like, oh, I'm not taking this home. But I'm going to hide it next to the dunes under a log, and then I'll come back next week and it'll be fine. I went back the next week and it was gone. And I was kicking myself because it was like this beautiful lightning. I didn't even know they got that big. But I learned my lesson. I need to take a trash bag with me or something.
What's that over there? That looks
Oh,
like
it's
a
a
larva.
cutlass fish. Yeah, people use these for bait, but if you look at their mouth, that one's about that big. And if you look at their mouth, it's full of teeth. And they make real good bait though, especially like if you're gonna troll and you're going offshore, the thing will it'll look like it's alive and going like a snake looking thing. Yeah. And then a puffer fish, a striped burrfish is its name, but they can puff up, you know, like twice as big as what they are. We actually have a good beachcombing coming out about that one. And then here's Ripton, that I was talking about earlier. We do find some, freshwater fish that wash up. So you can imagine anything in the watershed and the rivers and stuff, everything washes to the ocean and then gets pushed up on our shoreline. So that alligator gar is normally what you'd see up in fresh water. So, although they can tolerate a little bit of salt, I have seen people catch them on the Oso Pier, which is there in Corpus Christi many years ago. I don't even know if there's a pier there anymore. I don't think there's a pier there anymore. A lot of fishing gear. We call this ghost fishing. So we'll find like nets there, we'll find crab traps. These are things that they're still out there in the ocean, but nobody's fishing them. And so that doesn't mean they're not catching animals. So we'll find these things wash up and they'll have a bunch of crabs in them. I have seen them, somebody actually for the English Rehabilitation Keep over there, somebody called and said, hey, we got a Cooper's hawk stuck in a crab trap. Because somebody had picked one up off the beach and just put it in their yard. And the thing somehow got stuck inside this crab trap, so they had to go in and dig it out of there. These devices right here, these are called fish aggregating device. And so FAD is the acronym. And a lot of these are from West Africa. And so what these are, they can be homemade or they can just be, it looks like a tabletop. And then it has nets hanging from it and ropes. And you can imagine, say you're out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic, there's no structure out there. So if there is something floating out there, the little fish will get all in there because they want to be protected. And then what eats little fish? Big fish. And so like tuna, this is used in the tuna industry. And so that beacon that you see there, that tells the fishermen where that little disc is, because there will be tuna just circling around that. So they'll take their huge nets, go all the way around it, and then pull it all up. And so these are trying to be, some groups are trying to get these outlawed in the U.S., but we know that this one right here in particular is from West Africa because there's a number on it. There's actually 2 letters and a number. The 2 letters are the country code, and then the numbers after it say, who owns it.
So
And
you think it floated all the way from West Africa?
all the way from West Africa, right? Yeah, so that tells you our ocean currents are pretty wild. And we find a lot of floats too. Some are like homemade, but there's some illegal fishing industries that come up from Mexico. They have what they call long lines. And so at the end of each line, they're going to have markers. So this one right here would have a weight on the bottom, and then it would have, floating device just wrapped in net. And then the green thing there, that's a water hose tube. And then on the top of the stick is a flag. So that way they can see it from far off. And then they know, okay, here's the end of our line. We can go pull it in. Same with some of these other things, the metal ones, I found about 8 of these metal ones, especially after Hurricane Harvey. These Hurricane Harvey up on certain beaches totally ripped out some of the foredunes. And there's foredunes, then there's the gut, and then there's the second dune. There was primary dunes and secondary dunes. Primary dunes totally ripped off, and all the debris went up to the secondary dunes in there. So there's this crazy line of stuff you could go sift through. So who knows how long this stuff had been in the ocean? Who knows what hurricane it was from? This could have been from other hurricanes, but they don't make these metal ones anymore. They're from Europe, and they're worth about $800. I found out. Actually, my neighbor found out because he was like, "Oh, can I have one of those?" And he came back the next day and he was like, "I looked on eBay, it's worth $800." I was like, "Give it back." I let him keep it, But anyway, my wife won't let me bring anything else in the house. So I just have a pile of stuff in my front yard. She never even knows I bring anything back. I'm just like, but, yeah, so very interesting. Witch bottles. Y'all might have seen this in the news a couple of months ago. We've initially when I found these bottles, I didn't know what they were, but after I found a few of them, I was like, this has to be something. At first, I thought it was like a float, like a cheap float, homemade or something. But then I started looking into it, and these are called witch bottles. And so people will do like a seance. They'll have burning incense. They'll put things from around their house or sticks or leaves inside of this bottle, and they'll put a spell in there. It might be for good luck. It might be to hurt somebody. But then they put it, they either put it in the wall of their house, they bury it, or they throw it in the ocean. And so I found about 8 of these. And this is another one where my wife, and I agree with her, she's like, "No way you're bringing that in the house, and do not open it." You don't want to let stuff out. So on my back fence, I keep them out there. But we found a lot of interesting ones. The most interesting one, I don't think I have a picture of it up here, but it was a bunch of handwritten receipts with one message in it. And I did open this one because I thought it was a message in a bottle, actually. I took all the papers. There must have been 30 different papers, and then one big one. And it was all in Spanish. So I got it translated, and it was from somebody in Cuba that was asking for forgiveness for their sins because of all the money laundering they had done. And then all those pieces of paper were receipts. And so this is another sort of witch bottle that they had thrown in. But I opened it up, so I don't know what that means it's going to happen to me. We find a lot of egg casings, and some of the ones that we find very often are those lightning whelk, and especially summertime to late summer, early fall. It looks like a snake with no skin on it. And so that's this one up here. If you look real close, you see there's like these white little specks. Those are very tiny baby lightning whelks. And so these things will wash up, and once they wash up, they dry out. There's actually gel in each one of those little things that looks like ribs. There's up to 100 babies inside of that. And so once they wash up, if they don't have the gel in there, really there's no chance of them surviving. And especially if they're dried out, you can kind of shake it and you can hear them rattling. If you open up those pods and dump them out, you'll have all those little babies in there. But we get people all the time saying, oh, we got snakes washing up all over the beach. No, that's natural. Another thing is we'll be doing cleanups, and this moon snail here, it looks like a gasket on the beach. And if you pick it up, it's made out of mucus and sand, and it's got thousands of eggs in there. And if you try to tear it, it almost is like a rubber type material. And so people are picking those up and stuff. And they're like, oh, leave them there. Throw them back in the water. Those are natural, but that's from the moon snail. And then next to the moon snail, you see their operculum, which is basically their hatch door that keeps them protected when they go into the snail, inside of the shell. And then horse conch, and then skate egg casing. And about 2 weeks ago, there was a bunch of these on North Padre Island. Some of them had live skates in them. Skate is like, it looks like a stingray, has a little tail. It just doesn't have the barb on it. But it's a flat fish. But these things, one embryo will be inside of it. And they could be in there, depending on the species, it can be in there for 3 months to a year even. And it will pop out of one side and then swim out and be on its merry way. Now the one that I found, that I took photos of a couple of weeks ago, and you can look on our Facebook page or Instagram on it, but it was about that big, and it had this big black thing inside of it. And you might have thought, oh, that's the skate, but that's actually the yolk. And then you could see the skate was a little bitty thing right next to it, and the tail was just whipping around in there. So of course I threw it back in the water, but I wish I would have had like an aquarium. I should have brought them up here.
Yeah, you should
Okay,
have.
okay, next time I'll think of that. I will think of that. Okay, we also find a lot of different type of beverages. I told you about that auction that we do.
I don't see any.
This legacy beer here, that's from, I guess, China or something like that. It's got Chinese writing on it. We sold that for $4. I put it in a thing of ice. I hope that they did not drink that because I don't know how long that had been out there. And this pennywort drink. Has anybody tried pennywort drink before? I have not either. But I gave a presentation last week, and this person was like, oh yeah, I drink that all the time. It's great. I'm like, okay. You're suspect. And then these bags right here, this is emergency water. And we find these all the time. They will be individual. One time I found a huge bag of them, and you can open up that bag, and there will be like 8 to 10 other bags in there that are 1 to 2 ounces of like very clean water. And so, I've tried it a couple times, and it's still good water,
Do you ever get sick?
Not on that yet, but usually my hands stink because I'm picking up dead stuff all the time or whatever. So by the time I open it up and drink it, there's sand all in my mouth. But I haven't gotten sick for some reason. Natural disasters. So we have a lot of natural disasters that happen around here, and not, maybe not the typical ones you think about. So the ones you might be thinking about is like freezes. So y'all remember, well, I think every year we've had pretty good freezes, but when the water temperature gets to, below 50 degrees, we start getting sea turtles that wash up because they get cold stunned. And actually in this room in February 2021, we had 750 sea turtles in this room right here. They were renovating it. They would never allow that now because that you would walk in and your eyes would start watering. It's kind of like, they're not real clean animals. Out of the water anyway. But so this is the sea turtles here. That same event, there are also certain fish that can't tolerate really cold temperatures, especially when it drops real fast. And so this here is from Charlie's pasture over here, and these are a bunch of striped burrfish, a bunch of hardheads. There were also some big stingrays and redfish in there. So these are just horrible to see. You don't like to see that kind of thing. But the amazing thing is, it's like I never knew there were so many puffer fish out there. I mean, that's pretty wild. And actually, there is a puffer fish in here, right?
Right.
Yeah, so if y'all want to see a live one, they're super cute, you know, they're little fins. Paraffin wax. So it is still legal. They ship this paraffin wax in containers. They can go offshore and clean their tanks out after they offload it. You know, there's still some in their tanks. They can go offshore, clean their tanks out. And we will find 2-3 times a year, we'll find big chunks of all this wax for miles on the beach. And so that's what this is. It's real brittle, it'll break it apart. This is from a red tide event. So we get these algal blooms that happen offshore, comes inland, and it smells on its own. And then add a bunch of dead fish in there, it can be pretty bad. And then this last summer, we had a lot of tar washing up. And there is an agency called Texas General Land Office Oil Spill Division. They come out and they can tell you whether it's natural or not. And as far as I know, it was natural from when I was talking with them. So, but how it works, you know, we start getting all these big waves and high water that pushes everything to the dunes, and then you don't find it anymore. So right now, there's no tar. So that's the good thing. Turtle bites and triggerfish. Triggerfish also make these little bites in almost everything. So you can see a purse here, there's plastic bottles, shoe soles, I mean all kinds of stuff. How you tell the difference, so in that diamond shape, there will be a tab. If there's a tab there, that's from a triggerfish. And so, you know, there's been a lot of studies done on looking at the inside of turtles. So if a turtle washes up and it's dead, and if it's taken down to like the National Seashore, does a lot of necropsies. They do necropsies here at the English Rehabilitation Keep. The smaller the turtle is, the more plastic that will be in its gut. So at some point it figures out that plastic is not edible. But you can see all the small bites there. So they're definitely small turtles taking bites. A lot of boats and different types of rafts that wash up. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we had 2 illegal fishing boats that washed up at the exact same times. One was down on the National Seashore, and one was on North Padre Island. And I went to the one on North Padre Island, and there was, the Coast Guard was there, the National Park Rangers were there, the Border Patrol was there, the county, constables, I mean, the regular cops, everybody was there, and I was thinking, oh my God, what's in here? So I get out with my camera, you know, I'm like, I'm gonna do a video of this. And when I got there, they were taking a beacon off of the boat with a big buoy on it. And they said that, the Coast Guard said, oh yeah, we picked the people up off of here 3 days ago. And so we put our beacon on there to see where it was ending up. And they said they were illegal fishermen. And I mean, there was like 70 gallons of fuel on there. By the time it got to the shore, I mean, there was water all in there and everything. But with all those authorities there, I was thinking, this doesn't make sense. I want to say there's probably something else in there. You know what I mean? I mean, illegal fishing boat with all those authorities. But the crazy thing is, they said that this happens all the time. Every day, there's illegal fishing boats coming up from Mexico that can get thousands of pounds of snapper. And you know, if you're a recreational fisherman, like if you pay one of these head boats to take you out, you can get like 3 snapper. So imagine somebody coming over and they're catching hundreds of snapper at one time, and there's, you know, 30 boats out there doing the exact same thing. So it can really impact the fishery in the Gulf of Mexico. So there's a lot of work going on. Actually, the Hart Research Institute, they're working with the Coast Guard on getting the fish from those illegal fishing vessels to find out more information and stuff like that. So some wild stuff there. Oh, and the other thing is, I show up and there's one guy standing there like this right next to the boat. And he was like, this is my boat. You can't have it. And I was like, I don't want it. And he's like, I'm just waiting for the Coast Guard to give me the okay. He's like, I'm taking this with me. I already got my buddy coming with a trailer. And so this must have been at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I saw a photo. Somebody was on the beach at like 5 in the morning at nighttime, and the guy's still standing there. So apparently the Coast Guard finally gave him the approval, but he had to wait for his buddy to get there with some kind of trailer to take it off of there. But he said the motor still turned over and everything. I mean, it was a hand tiller boat and a big pongo. It was this exact same type of boat right there. So I mean, it was a big boat. But I thought, man, that's dedication. But we find all kinds of stuff here. Actually, this escape pod is about 4 miles up on San Jose Island. It's still up there. Somebody texted me last night. People message me, text me, email me, like almost on a daily basis on what is this? What is this? Well, you know, so somebody emailed me with this, said, I need to contact the owner. I was like, I made a video about this. I sent him a video because after I posted a video of this, the owners contacted me within 24 hours and they were like, where is this? You know, our boat sunk. It was a shrimp boat. Our boat sunk in the Gulf of Mexico, and they sent me a video of it, and you can see the pod in the side of it, like going. So they were obviously on a boat that had rescued them, but their shrimp boat was, I mean, going down. Like there was almost nothing left of it, and that pod just drifted off. So it's still over there if anybody wants it, I guess. Animals, you know, we've rescued a lot of different species of animals, a lot of birds, you know, there are a lot of entanglement, sea turtles, hundreds of sea turtles. This shark one time, so this shark, I came up on it, and it was super cold out, and I thought it was dead, so I was like, oh, we'll get some video. When I picked it up, it started like going crazy. It was still alive, and you know, so I put that in the water, and hopefully it survived, but I mean, it was up for some reason, so I have no idea. The scariest moment of my life was with this alligator. So this alligator was in the same spot on the beach for 7 days. So we thought, okay, we have a rehab facility here. Let's just go get him and bring him back. So I watched this YouTube video of this 12-year-old kid who went out. It was a 3-foot. This was a 5.5 foot, but there was a 3-foot alligator in this YouTube video. He just threw a towel over it, went and picked it up, and then released it somewhere else. And I was like, that is easy. So we go. This is up San Jose Island, way up there. I got my towel, and the thing was at the water's edge. I was like, oh, well, it moved. I was like, that's a good sign. So I threw the towel over it. It didn't move at all. And I was like, this is going to be easy. So I get on its back, and right when I sat down on its back and put my hands around its neck, it immediately sounded like a lion and just this crazy, and it started doing a death roll with its mouth wide open and hissing. And I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because this thing, it went halfway around and then broke my watch off. And it finally made it all the way around. I put my hand on its mouth, because if you hold its mouth, it can't open it back up. And then this lady, Alicia Walker, was there, put tape around it. We were able to get it and put it in the back of the UTV where we had modified it and put a net over. And so there was a graduate student that was with us who had the video camera. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be gold right here. And so he tries to turn it off, and he's like, it's frozen up. It won't do anything. And I was like, oh my God, I risked my life, and it's not even on camera. So there is no video. This is the only photo we have. But actually, the day we found it, I went up and I pulled its tail because I thought it was dead. And the thing whipped around and started hissing. And that's when I knew it was alive. So then we went back to catch it. But the good part of this story, we got it back, we fed it fish for 2 weeks, then we went and released it up in the Mission River. So good ending. I mean, it was probably attacked, right when we let it go. But I don't know if they're territorial or not. But we will never do that again. Okay, now this is why y'all all came, right? This is the dolls. So we started finding a bunch of dolls washing up. And actually, I don't know if any of y'all remember Tony Amos. He started the Amos Rehabilitation Keep. But he used to collect these dolls. He loved these dolls. And so we ended up, this was the first one that we really posted right here. And apparently, it's from a doll, a bad doll. But we put that up because we're always trying to get new followers so that we can teach them about different things in the Gulf of Mexico. So we put that doll up first, and then we put all these other videos of educational stuff. Well, you would not believe how many new followers we got on the page, comments. I mean, the thing went viral, basically. And then we're like, oh, well, this might be a good way to get new people we wouldn't normally reach. And so we started doing that. And so you can see we have found probably 30 dolls over the years. I mean, just a lot of them. And this one guy named John Oliver, and I had not heard of this guy before he contacted us and said, hey, we want to buy your photos. And the university was like, no, we don't do that. You know, we're not signing any agreements or whatever, but you can use it. You know, it's all educational type stuff. So about a month later, somebody texts me and says, hey, you're on John Oliver's show. And this guy's a comedian on HBO. And but he did this special edition on these dolls for like 10 minutes. And he has me on there talking about ocean currents and why the dolls might be showing up, you know, trying to give some science to it. And he was like, nobody cares about that. You know, we want to know why there's a 4,000-year-old girl out there trying to haunt our nightmares by putting all these dolls out there. He's like, I will buy these from you for $10,000 so that we can burn them. He's like, we got to destroy these dolls before they haunt us anymore. And so he did. He sent somebody down from San Antonio and purchased, we had 12 dolls at the time. This guy came down, he had no idea what he was picking up. And I come walking out with a bucket of dolls hanging out, and he was just like, what in the world? And he's bubble wrapping each one of them, putting them in a box, and he's like, I have no idea what's going on here, but this is an expensive service. He said, I'm taking all this box of dolls back up to San Antonio, getting on a plane and flying them to New York City. And then so the next episode for the John Oliver has this bucket of dolls. Oh my God. But he ended up paying $10,000, and it all went to the Amos Rehabilitation Keep. So to date, that is the most money we've raised on creepy dolls.
They look huge. I mean, some of them
Oh.
are big.
Some of these, like this, that one is probably about like that. And then we came up on it, and you know, it had all these markings and stuff on it. I mean, some of them really are just real creepy.
Are they evil or something?
Oh, I'm sure. Oh yeah, you don't want to mess with them. But you know what? We have had some of these that we sell at the auction that we do. And they sell for $2 to $5, you know. And I think somebody just feels sorry for us because we have a megaphone there, and we're like, "Oh, how much for this doll?" And people are just like, "Shut this guy up here and give him some money." Oh man! And the other thing we have found was a leg. It was like a prosthetic leg. We ended up selling that for like $10. You know, well, we'll take anybody's money. Oh yeah, so here's the John Oliver thing. So if y'all are interested in seeing this, beach dolls, type in beach dolls, and that'll probably wash up, or like show up. Beach doll John Oliver or something. But if you don't like bad language, this guy likes to curse. So just be forewarned. But it's super funny, and you can see here, at the time when I did this screenshot last year, there was 4.1 million views. So like this guy's like famous or something, you know. Okay, everybody always wants to know, have you found money? That's you know, people are always out there. We like shells and stuff, but we want to know if you found money. The answer is yes. So there's actually an etiquette with message in a bottle. So this message in a bottle was about 11 years old. And this was from a couple that was on a Carnival cruise in the Caribbean on their honeymoon. And they end up writing a letter, and you're supposed to put money in there, which they did. And you don't put your email address, you don't put your phone number, you can only put your address. So it's like an old school way of communicating. You actually have to write a letter. And so that's what they did, and I put it on social media, so you're probably not supposed to do that. But that one went viral where people were just like, we want to find who these owners are. Within 6 hours, the lady who had put that out there, she contacted me and said, oh, we were on our honeymoon 11 years ago. We now have a couple of kids. We live in Austin. I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. So I was supposed to meet up with them at some point. It never happened, but I need to contact them again. I also found this little purse. It was that $10, it's a Haitian $10 bill. It's not dollars though, it's called gourds, and I'm pretty sure it's worth about a quarter of a penny. You know, it's basically worthless, but to me, it was very valuable. And then everybody wants to know about the safe. So this safe, we did do a video on this. I had to dig it out of the surf zone, and I was, if you rolled it over, you would hear something go ka-plunk, ka-plunk. And I thought, this is my payday. I finally made it. Time to retire. So it was so heavy that I could not pick it up myself. I mean, the thing, literally this big, a big Century safe. So my son was with me. We put it in the back of the UTV, got it home. It took an hour to get it open. We had electric saws, sledgehammers, crowbars, and finally got it to where we could barely put our arm in there to dig out what was in there, and I could see a package. So I reached down in there, and I pulled the package out, and you know what it was? A package of silica gel. Like you get with your shoes to keep stuff dry.
That's all?
So that's why I'm here today. Things just didn't pan out. But we did this whole video, and I know that people are probably going to send me hate mail for it. But, they watch this whole video for 6 or 7 minutes, and then I just pull out this packet of drying gel, I was very entertained by it, but, anyway, I have heard of people, Turtle Patrol, down on the National Seashore, found a bag of money. I don't know how much was in it, but it was a bank bag. And so it could happen someday. I'm still, holding out. Now, these next 2 slides, because I know y'all want to know how you finding all this stuff. When do you go out? Well, the number one thing, if you want to find a lot of stuff, you got to get out there at the best time is low tide, but it has to be before the sun comes up. Now, there's a camera on the Seagull condominiums out here, and it looks like a half of Mustang Island. I open that up almost on a daily basis to see what the conditions are, because you can see if the water's out and all that. And it's free to see. But if you look at that, even when the light is like first light, you will see people out there. They're picking everything up already. So you have to get out there early. And the best time is if it's low tide. At low tide, and especially January, February is the lowest tides of the year, you get stuff that is just exposed from way out. And one thing, that'll slow people down because everyone's in there digging around, so they're not just going super fast picking everything up on the beach. But you can go and you can spend your time in a small area and just find a whole bunch of stuff. Like, that's the time to go. Now, where to go? This is where everyone always asks me, is like, where do I have to go? So there are a few key, and y'all can feel free to take a photo if y'all want, but there are a few key beaches up here that have less traffic on them than others. Of course, you're going to know about the Padre Island National Seashore. That is, south of here, North Padre Island. You get to the National Seashore, into the pavement, and then there's 60 miles of beach that you can drive down. After 5 miles down there, you have to have a 4-wheel drive. And so that's why very few people go down there. Well, one, it's like an all-day ordeal. It'll take you all day. But, and at the end of the 60 miles, there's a jetty, so there is no going any further down. But if you can make it down there, and it's an adventure just to get down there, you will find pockets of shells and debris and all kinds of stuff down there, especially from 30 miles south. That is a great place to go. Some other places, south of Bob Hall. So south of Bob Hall Pier is a great place. Less people go there. There's a lot of people at Whitecap Beach, which is North Padre Island, but go south of there is really good. North of Fish Pass, do y'all know where Fish Pass Jetty is? So Fish Pass is a Mustang Island State Park. They have little jetties that go out that back in the 60s was dug out. It was supposed to be a pass, but as soon as they dug it out, it filled back in. And I think they helped it out because that's when the Ixtoc spill was happening, like around 1980 or something. They filled it in because they didn't want oil coming in or something. There's a whole story there. But the main thing is there's Access Road 2, and then there's the Fish Pass Jetty. Very few people go on that 2-mile stretch of beach right there because most people are getting on the beach and heading towards Port Aransas. So that is a very good spot to go. And then, of course, Matagorda Island, if you're able to go up towards like Palacios and stuff like that and they used to have a ferry boat, I don't know if they still do, but very few people are going over there as Of course, here, if you want to find shark's teeth, right here in Port A, in between Horace Caldwell Pier and the jetty, there is a little shell hash area. If you can find that shell hash area, if the tide's out, sit down, and people find shark's teeth there all the time. But you have to sit down. You can't just walk along. I mean, it's like you got to dig through it. Okay, these beachcombing videos, we have a lot of teachers that show this in their classroom. So the videos are coming out on Mondays, and on Tuesday they'll show it to their classrooms, and it's a conversation starter. So it's like, if we're talking about a fish, they can go into more detail than we do on the video. And so it's a good discussion piece for the classroom. So we're excited about that, and we're trying to promote that as well. And we're going to be coming out with a beachcombing kit for teachers that will actually have some very basic curriculum. And so why do we do all this ridiculous stuff? Well, we are hoping that by educating folks and getting them interested about what is washing up, that we will get them to care about it, and that will ultimately lead to conservation. So that is our number one goal. And so with that, that's all I have. I'll take questions if y'all are interested in following our YouTube. These are QR codes. I also have the exact same thing there on these cards up here, and I'll leave them up here if y'all are interested in that. But I'll take any questions because I think we only have like 6 minutes, right? Feel free to ask. Yes?
So if we're seeing things wash up on shore, like those little egg casings and stuff, like is there any way to say, like, to toss them back in the surf just seems like they'll just end up back on the beach again?
Right. Yeah, my
So
thought
they
on
do?
that is that, you'd have to have some time, but if you were able to take those skate eggs and put them in the bay, they probably have a better chance of survival, because once they're up on the beach, they're just gonna dry out. And most of the time when you find them, they're already, they're empty most of the time, which is good. I mean, then you take that home and it doesn't smell or anything. But the live ones, yeah, if you could take them to the bay, that's probably the best thing for them. Or your aquarium. I mean, I don't have an aquarium, but I would love to just put one in the aquarium and see that thing swim out of there.
Yeah.
We saw these huge tree trunks on the beach this last week, different areas of the